The silence on the arboretum level was a physical thing, a blanket of rich, loamy air thick with the scent of damp soil and blooming night phlox. Enya's fingers, stained with earth, carefully pruned a dead leaf from an orchid. Her movements slow and reverent. Outside the curved polymerglass dome, the Arc-9 nebula churned in a perpetual, violet-streaked dance, a breathtaking vista she had long since learned to treat as wallpaper. Her world was here, inside this bubble of green and life. The calm's crackle made her jump, the sharp sound alien in the tranquility. "Anya, you got a minute?" Bren's voice was uncharacteristically tight. "I always have a minute for you, Bren." "What's the matter? Is the supply ship early?" She wiped her hands on her trousers, not taking her eyes off the delicate white petals of the flower. "Negative. We've got an anomalous contact. Small vessel, non-human design. It's on a drift trajectory right for you. Looks like it's been in a fight." Enya's blood ran cold. "Pirates. Doesn't match any known pirate signature. Its energy readings are strange, all wrong, and it's hailing on a broad frequency." A distress call. The station's calm AI voice interjected. "Proximity alert. Object on collision course. Estimated docking impact in 7 minutes." "They're not asking, Anya," Bren said, his voice grim. "They're coming in. I can't get a patrol ship out there for at least 12 hours. You need to lock yourself down. Take the pulse rifle from the armory." Enya's eyes swept over her plants, her peaceful kingdom. The thought of violence here was a sacrilege. "I'll secure the airlocks. Keep the channel open, Bren." She moved through the lush pathways, her heart hammering against her ribs. By the time she reached the central hub, the entire station shuddered, groaning with the strain of an unplanned, hard dock. Metal shrieked on metal, the lights flickered, and the gentle hum of the life support systems stuttered for a terrifying second. Then a heavy silence fell, broken only by the hiss of equalizing pressure from the docking ring. She stood, a small figure in the vast, green-carpeted corridor, facing the main airlock door. The external light above it glowed a menacing red. She hadn't taken the rifle. It felt wrong. The door hissed, gears grinding in protest, and slid open. Smoke and the acrid smell of burnt circuitry billowed out. Through the haze, a figure stumbled, collapsing onto the cool floor of her hub. He was tall, slender, with skin the color of brushed silver and hair like spun moonlight. Even where it was matted with a dark, cobalt blue substance she assumed was blood. His clothing was sleek, gray, and utilitarian, but torn at the shoulder, revealing a nasty burn. His eyes opened, pupils contracting to vertical slits against the light. They were the color of amber, and they fixed on her with a mixture of pain and profound shock. He tried to push himself up, his long-fingered hands splayed against the floor, but his strength failed him. He spoke, his voice a low, melodic rasp, the language utterly foreign. A small device on his wrist flickered, and a moment later, a synthesized, but clear, voice translated. "Life form, oxygen-nitrogen breather. This location is not a registered port, it's a research station," Anya said, her own voice steady despite her fear. "You're injured. Let me help you." She took a step forward. He flinched back, a movement so swift it was like a predator's recoil. His amber eyes scanned her, the room, the verdant leaves trailing from the overhead planters. His expression was one of pure, uncomprehending bewilderment. "You are alone here?" The translator asked for him a yes. "It's just me." She knelt, slowly, keeping her hands visible. "My name is Anya. I'm a botanist, a gardener." He stared at her. "A cultivator of non-essential flora?" The translation was flat, but his tone carried the weight of the question. To him, it was an insanity. "It's essential to me," she said softly. She pointed to his wounded shoulder. "May I?" He hesitated, his gaze searching her face. He saw no weapon, no armor, only concern in her human eyes. Finally, he gave a slow, single nod. Anya moved closer, her medkit in hand. As she cleaned the burn, he remained perfectly still, his attention fixed not on her work, but on her face, on the way she gently brushed the hair from his forehead to check for fever. "I am Kellen," he said, his real voice softening slightly. "My ship, the core containment field failed. I was the only one who reached the escape pod." "I'm sorry, Kellen," Anya whispered. His amber eyes held hers. Why did you open the door? Your protocols for an unknown contact must dictate isolation. Anya finished applying a regenerative gel bandage. My protocol is to help someone in need. Kellen fell silent, absorbing this. He looked past her, at a waterfall that cascaded down a mossy rock face into a koi pond. His logical, survival-driven mind could not process this place, this woman. She had no visible defenses, yet she had opened her door to a potential threat. She lived surrounded by things that served no immediate purpose, only beauty. It was the most illogical, and therefore the most fascinating, thing he had ever witnessed. And as he watched her pack her medkit, her movements full of a gentle grace, he felt the first, fragile crack in the foundation of everything he knew. The days settled into a fragile, new rhythm. Kellen's presence was a quiet storm in Anya's tranquil world. He moved with an efficient, silent grace, his every action purposeful, a stark contrast to her own meandering, nurturing ways. His ship, a sleek, wounded bird docked to her station, was a tomb of dead systems. The damage was profound, a fusion core breach that had fried the primary logic circuits. Repair, he informed her, was not a matter of weeks, but potentially months. Your people will come for you, Anya asked one morning, handing him a cup of tea she had infused with calming chamomile from her garden. He took the ceramic mug, his long fingers examining its rough, hand-thrown texture with curiosity. They will detect a beacon from my pod, eventually. But space is vast. My people do not hurry. Haste is inefficient. So we have time, she said, a little too quickly. He looked at her, his amber eyes unblinking. Time is a resource. You spend yours on this. He gestured not with disdain, but with genuine confusion at the sprawling fern that draped over their seating area. It's not spending. It's investing, Anya corrected gently. This fern filters our air, regulates humidity, and its spores are used in my medicines. But beyond that, it's beautiful. It brings me peace. Peace is a lack of conflict. It is achieved through order and control, not through uncontrolled growth. Maybe my peace is different from yours, she decided to show him. She led him through the biomes, from the humid rainforest sector, where water dripped from broad leaves, to the arid desert dome, where resilient cacti bloomed in defiant bursts of color. He followed, a silver shadow amidst the green, his logical mind struggling to categorize what he saw dot in the temperate zone. She stopped by a plant with delicate, bell-shaped flowers. This is a snowdrop. It's one of the first flowers to bloom after winter on Earth. It pushes through the frozen ground when everything else is still asleep. A logical expenditure of energy. The risk of frost damage is high. Kellen observed, it's not about logic. It's about hope. It's a promise that the dark days don't last forever. He was silent for a long time, looking at the small, white flower. We have no equivalent concept. Later, under the simulated night sky of the observatory deck, the nebula painting the room in ethereal light, he began to share in return. He told her of Kither, a world of crystalline structures and perfect, geometric cities, of a society where one's life path was computed at birth for maximum efficiency and contribution, where relationships were logical partnerships, and emotion was seen as static in the signal of a pure mind. We explore the stars not for wonder, but for data, to expand our understanding of the universe's laws, he said, his voice soft. That sounds lonely, Anya whispered. The word seemed to strike him. Loneliness is an inefficiency. It signifies a lack of necessary social connection. No, she said, turning to face him. Loneliness is a feeling. It's the heart remembering it's meant to beat next to another. Their eyes met in the dim light. The translator remained silent. In that moment, no words were needed. He was learning a new language, not of root and stem, but of heart and silence. He found himself noticing the way she hummed when she worked, the tiny freckles across her nose that appeared after she spent time under the full-spectrum grow lights, the way her laughter seemed to make the very leaves tremble with joy. One evening, as she was struggling to recalibrate a nutrient injector, her tools slipping on a stubborn bolt, he wordlessly stepped forward. His hands, so deft with complex circuitry, took the tool from hers. With a precise, minimal movement, he loosened the bolt. "Thank you," she said, her smile warm and genuine. "Efficiency," he replied, but the word felt hollow on his tongue. He had helped her not because it was the most efficient path to station maintenance, but because he wanted to see that smile again. The realization was more unsettling than any ship malfunction. He was beginning to appreciate the beauty of an illogical act. It began with a shudder, a deep, groaning tremor that ran through the station's spine. The lights flickered violently, and a blaring alarm cut through the air, a solar flare warning. Category 5. The nebula, usually a gentle painter of light, had turned violent. Anya, get to the shelter. Bren's voice was frantic over the comm, laced with static. The flare's hitting harder than predicted. It's going to fry your external systems. The biodome. The plants will freeze. Anya cried, already running towards the environmental control room. There's no time. The radiation surge, the comms died with a final, painful crackle. The main lights went out, plunging the station into an emergency-lit gloom. The gentle hum of the life support systems stuttered and fell silent. The only sound was the frantic beating of Anya's heart and the quiet, panicked rush of water from the artificial streams. She reached the control panel. It was dead. Without power, the heating would fail, and the delicate ecosystem she had spent years cultivating would perish in hours. Her life's work, her sanctuary, would turn into a tomb of ice. The auxiliary power can only sustain one non-essential system. Kellen's voice was calm behind her. He had followed her, his face illuminated by the red emergency lights. It is a choice between the biodome's climate or your personal quarters. The logical choice is your quarters. No, Anya said, her voice firm despite her trembling hands. This isn't just a non-essential system, Kellen. This is my home. This is everything. It is illogical to die for flowers. It's human to try. She shot back, tears welling in her eyes. We persist. We don't just calculate the odds and surrender. She expected an argument, a cold recitation of survival statistics. But he simply looked at her, at the fierce, desperate love in her eyes for this fragile world she had built. He saw not a programmer of flora, but a guardian, a warrior fighting for beauty. Show me the secondary conduits, he said. For the next 6 hours, they worked in the cold, dim light. He was a genius with systems, rerouting power from non-critical stations, jury-rigging battery backups she didn't even know existed. She was his guide. Her knowledge of the station's anatomy as intimate as her knowledge of a plant's veins. They moved together, a single organism, his logic directing the flow of energy, her heart directing the purpose. In the deepest part of the artificial night, they found a moment of respite in the rainforest biome. The air was growing chill, but the heat from the emergency lights and their own bodies created a small pocket of warmth. They sat on a mossy bank, surrounded by the sleeping forms of the plants they were fighting to save. You could have saved yourself, Anya said, her voice raw with exhaustion and gratitude. A known variable is preferable to an unknown one, he said, the old mantra sounding weak. He looked at her, her face pale and smudged with dirt in the dim light. But that is not why. He reached out, his movements slow, giving her every opportunity to pull away. His silver fingers, usually so precise and cold, brushed a stray strand of hair from her cheek. The touch was electric, a spark of warmth in the chilling air. Anya, he said, and for the first time, he used only her name, without the filter of the translator. His voice a soft, melodic whisper. I do not understand this. This feeling. It is inefficient. It consumes my processing cycles. But I find I do not wish for it to stop. Her breath caught. She placed her hand over his, her warm, earth-stained skin a stark contrast to his. That's called caring, Kellen. In the quiet darkness, surrounded by the fragile life they were protecting, the last of his barriers crumbled. He leaned forward, and his lips met hers. It was not a kiss of passion, but of connection, a silent communication more profound than any data stream. It was a promise harvested not from logic, but from the silent, enduring soil of the heart. The galaxy outside was frozen and silent, but inside the glass garden, something new and warm had finally bloomed. The crisis passed. Power was slowly restored, and the biodome warmed back to life, its leaves lifting gratefully towards the restored full-spectrum lights. But the world inside the station had irrevocably changed. The space between Anya and Kellen was now charged with a new, quiet understanding. His touch was no longer hesitant. His amber eyes held a softness when they rested on her. It was during one of these quiet moments, as they shared a meal of hydroponic vegetables and rehydrated protein, that the station's proximity alert chimed a clean, sharp sound very different from the frantic alarm of the solar flare. On the screen, a ship decanted from warp. It was Kithari in design, but larger and more severe than Kellen's vessel. Its lines as cold and sharp as a shard of ice. Kelen single quotes S posture straightened instantly, the softness in his eyes freezing over. Toval, he said, the name a statement of fact. The calms lit up. A face appeared on the screen, severe and handsome, with the same silver skin and moonlight hair. But his eyes were the color of frozen hydrogen, pale and distant. Kellen, your beacon was detected. Your delay is noted. Prepare for transfer. My ship is non-operational. Toval. A core breach, irrelevant. You are being reassigned. A new vessel is being dispatched. Your data on the nebula's energy fluctuations is required. Anya watched, her heart sinking. This was it. The outside world was reclaiming him. I am not ready to depart, Kellen said, his voice even. Toval's gaze flickered to Anya, standing just behind Kellen. His expression did not change, but a flicker of something contempt. Pity crossed his features. The human variable is noted. It is also irrelevant. You have 24 hours to conclude your interactions. She is not an interaction, Kellen replied, a new edge in his voice. Her name is Anya. All the more reason for efficiency, Toval said, his tone chillingly logical. Attachment to ephemeral beings is a cognitive error. Their lifespans are a blink. Their emotions, a chaotic storm. They cannot journey with us, Kellen. They are anchors, not engines. The words hung in the air, cruel and precise. Anya felt them like physical blows. I have made my choice, Kellen said. His voice low but clear. Toval was silent for a long moment, processing this illogical statement. Clarify. I am staying. The silence from the ship was absolute. When Toval spoke again, his voice was devoid of all warmth, a pure instrument of logic. Then you are choosing permanent exile. Your identity will be stricken from the Kithari records. Your genetic line will be considered terminated. You will be a ghost, Kellen. You will wander the small, lonely corner of space with a creature who will be dust long before you even reach middle age. Is this your choice? Anya looked at Kellen, her eyes filled with tears. She saw the cost laid out before him, the vast, star-spanning civilization of his people. His purpose, his very name, all traded for her, for a single, fleeting human life in a glass bubble. He turned from the screen and looked only at her. He saw the garden she had built, the peace she embodied, the love that asked for nothing and offered everything. He saw a different kind of sky, not one to be crossed quickly, but one to be admired from a single, cherished place. It is, Kellen said, his voice firm. I am staying. On the screen, Toval gave a slow, almost imperceptible nod. Then you are no longer Kithari. You are nothing. The transmission cut out. The screen went dark. The weight of his sacrifice settled upon them. Kellen had not just chosen Anya. He had chosen to become nothing for her. He had traded the entire galaxy for the promise of a single, persistent star. The following hours were heavy with a quiet grief. Kellen moved through the station, a ghost in the making. He transferred the last of his personal logs, a lifetime of data, to Anya's archives of final, futile act of preservation. He was quiet, and Anya gave him space, her own heart aching with the magnitude of what he had lost. Just as they began to believe it was over, the airlock alert chimed. Toval stood there, alone, having crossed the vacuum in a personal pod. He stepped inside, his eyes scanning the biodome with clinical disdain before settling on Kellen. This is an emotional decision, Toval stated, without preamble. It is invalid. I am here to retrieve you. You have no authority over me, Kellen replied, standing his ground. I am nothing, by your own declaration. You are a resource, a highly trained one. Wasting you on this sentimental experiment is illogical. Toval's gaze shifted to Anya. Do you understand what you ask of him? You, who will age and wither in what, to us, is a mere season. You bind him to this rock. When you are gone, What will he have? This garden? It is a cage. Anya felt a surge of protective anger. She stepped forward, placing herself between the two Kithari. You think we build nothing that lasts? Her voice was soft, but carried the strength of the roots she tended. You travel fast and far, but what do you leave behind? Data, records? We may be slow, we may be ephemeral, but we build gardens. We write stories. We love. She looked at Kellen, her love for him shining plainly in her eyes. You see a cage. I see a home. You see a short life. I see a life worth living. You have warp drives to flee from silence. We have the persistence to build a world inside it and fill it with meaning. Toval stared at her, his flawless logic struggling to compute her words. Persistence over speed, meaning over data, a home over a destination. It was heresy. It was chaos. But as he looked at Kellen, he did not see a corrupted resource. He saw a being who stood straighter, whose eyes, once coldly analytical, now held a deep, quiet light. He saw a peace that his own efficient, perfect society had never granted him. He will be alone when you are gone, Toval said. But the certainty was gone from his voice. No, Anya said, smiling through her tears. He'll have the memories we planted. And gardens, if he chooses to tend them, grow back. Love isn't about forever in your years, Toval. It's about forever in your heart. And that endures. Toval was silent for a long time. He looked from Anya's determined face to Kellen's serene one. He had come to retrieve a lost asset and found instead a concept his people had forgotten, or perhaps never learned, that some journeys are not outward, but inward, and that the greatest triumph is not in conquering the stars, but in cultivating a single, perfect point of light within the infinite dark. Without another word, he turned and walked back to the airlock. The door hissed shut behind him. They watched from the observatory as his ship powered up its warp drive and vanished into a pinpoint of light, heading back to the cold, logical galaxy. Kellen took Anya's hand. His was steady. He was wrong, he whispered. I am not nothing. For the first time, I am everything. Outside, the nebula glittered, a silent witness. The galaxy, in its vast, cold calculus, had finally learned a new variable. Humans don't need warp drives. They endure. And in their enduring, they teach the stars how to love.